Hey Kings, you are once again welcome. Today, let's look at some text transitions that we can easily create using Premiere Pro. The first one is what I call the block transition. Simply make sure that you're having both text on your timeline. Move to the Effects panel, and then search for Block Dissolve. Add it to both texts on the timeline. Good. Now let's work on the first text. On the Effect Controls panel, adjust block width to about 20. And also, block height to about 20, depending on the size of your text. Move to where you want the animation to start. And then add a keyframe to transition completion at 0%. Now, move forward to the end of the clip. And then change transition completion to 100%. Now let's move to the other text. Change both block width and block height to 20, just as we did for the other text. Now, add a keyframe to transition completion at the beginning of the clip. And then change the value to 100%. Move a bit forward on the timeline. And then change the value back to 0%. That's it. This will now be the result. Good. Quickly, let's move to the next text transition. Again, make sure that you're having both text on your timeline. And then move to the point where you want the transition to start. On the Effect Controls panel, add a keyframe to opacity at 100%. Move to the end of the first clip. And then change the opacity to 0%. Now, move to the second text. And at the beginning of the second text, add a keyframe to opacity and change the value to 0%. Move a bit forward on the timeline. And then change the value back to 100%. Now, this will give you this simple and popular text transition. Let's move to the final one, which is the 3D text transition. But before we do that, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And then turn on the notification bell, because that's the only way you can have access to all my new tutorials. Also, don't forget to leave your comments down below. Now let's proceed. Search for the basic 3D effect on the Effects panel. Now, add it to both texts. Let's start working on the first text. On the Effect Controls panel, we can animate either the swivel or the tilt, depending on how you want it. So let's start by animating the swivel. Move to the point where you want the animation to start on the timeline. And then add a keyframe to swivel. Move to the end of the clip. And then change the angle of the swivel to 90 degrees. Move to the second text. And on the Effect Controls panel, add a keyframe to swivel at the beginning of the clip. And then change the angle to -89 degrees. Move a bit forward on the timeline. And then change the angle back to 0 degree. That is going to give you this 3D text transition. Also, you can do the same thing for the tilt. Add a keyframe to it at the point where you want the transition to start, at 0 degree. Move to the end of the clip, and then change the value to 90 degrees. Select the second text. Add a keyframe to tilt at the beginning of the clip. Change the angle to -89 degrees. Move a little bit forward. And then change the angle back to 0 degree. That is also going to give you a 3D text transition from a different angle. So that's it for today. I hope you learned something new. Make sure to hit the like button. And also, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and then turn on the notification bell, because that's the only way you can have access to all my new tutorials. Also let me know your comments. Always be creative. Jesus loves you. See you next week.